relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Aussie beauty queen turned boxer hits a setback in her quest to fight glamorous countrywoman and fellow OnlyFans star Ebony Bridges. They're talking about Avril, Mathie, and Avril suffering her first professional loss last weekend to Ramla Ali. Ramla, who won wide on the cards, but she really had to work for every round she banked, every round she picked up. That's credit to Avril Mathie for forcing her to work.
Yeah, Avril's a good fighter.
Aussie boxer Avril Mathie's dream of fighting her countrywoman Ebony Bridges for her IBF Bantamweight world title hit an obstacle on Saturday as she lost to Britain's Ramla Ali. The Aussie tried to bridge the gap by upping her work rate in the latter stages of the fight, but was unable to overcome her highly rated opponent. The loss will put a dent in Mathie's quest to fight Bridges, with the pair's aggressive styles and glamorous displays outside of the ring sure to make the bout popular with fans if it ever comes off, and it might.
It still might.
Even though Avril Mathie suffered her first professional loss, she's still a solid and serviceable fighter, and Matchroom has an investment in both the women's bantamweight and super bantamweight divisions.
So it could still happen.
Mathie, who won the prestigious Miss Swimsuit USA International crown in 2014, is in Bridges' weight class, and she's keen to punch on with her countrywoman as soon as possible. I think Ebony is very intelligent, and I take my hat off to her, Mathie said last month. That will be a killer fight. I'm really excited for it. She brings it and likes to come forward and never takes a step back. But I can also bang and come forward. I think there's going to be fireworks. I'm significantly taller than her, so for me it's going to be about keeping her away from me, which will be a challenge because we've seen how she likes to get in. But it's one that I'm ready for, so as soon as her hand gets better, we can get it on. Bridges is currently recovering from surgery to her right hand, which she says she broke before her war with Shannon O'Connell.
Yet another domestic rival.
Another Aussie. She had to have bone taken away from her hip to complete the job due to the severity of the injury.
The audience at large may not be aware is that Ebony Bridges has been fighting injured for some time.
For all of last year, you heard that right. All of last year, Ebony Bridges was fighting injured. Towards the tail end of 2021, she incurred the injury in the Melis Gangloff fight, September 2021. Going into 2022, the Maria Cecilia Roman fight, then champion Maria Cecilia Roman.
Ebony was fighting injured.
And she was fighting injured in the more recent Shannon O'Connell fight. If you're wondering why didn't Ebony Bridges have the corrective surgery sooner, it's because she knew it would sidetrack her career and stifle her momentum on the eve of fighting for the IBF title opposite the ring Maria Roman and subsequently being ordered to fight Shannon O'Connell. She obviously didn't want to be stripped of the IBF title so soon after having won it. Having that surgery,
well, she might have gotten stripped.
You see what they did to Joe Cordina so soon after he won the IBF title. He injured his hand and they stripped him.
That wasn't right.
Ebony, she didn't want to take any chances, so she chose to fight on. She chose to fight injured, and it all worked out in the end. Mathie, Avril Mathie,
she started boxing in 2012, racking up 20 amateur bouts before turning pro in December of 2017 and quickly impressing fans.
In addition to her Miss Swimsuit USA International win, she also took out the Las Vegas International Model Search in 2015.
She's a looker.
A swimsuit model and a pugilist. A solid comeback fight for Ebony Bridges, and it's for that reason I don't think all hope is lost. I think we might still see this fight.
Ebony Bridges capped off her incredible 2022 by winning Sports Illustrated magazine's Breakout Boxer of the Year award, with the publication's boxing expert Chris Mannix saying Bridges has proven she's more than an attraction, ending 2022 as arguably the top fighter in the 118-pound division.
I think Chris Mannix is being a bit presumptuous. Ebony Bridges is one of 4 champions in the women's bantamweight division, and we have yet to see one of those champions really separate themselves from the other 4. The only way to do that is to start having unification matches, though coming off an injury, a surgery, that would be less than ideal for Ebony.
Going head-to-head against another champion right off of that surgery?
That makes sense. Last year, the United Kingdom's own Nina Hughes upset the apple cart for then unbeaten champion from the USA, Jamie Mitchell. She is now this division's WBA champion. There seems to be a plan in place to do a fight between Nina Hughes and former WBA champion Shannon Courtenay, who has since rebounded off the loss to Jamie Mitchell.
The same Jamie Mitchell that Nina just beat.
Jamie beat Shannon, and Nina beat Jamie.
Very soon we're going to find out if Nina can beat Shannon as well.
And while those two are settling up with each other, Ebony can take on Avril Mathie. Avril Mathie as her comeback fight in either the second or third quarter of this year.
It's not a lock, it's a suggestion.
And I say it's not a lock because Avril Mathie's no patsy. She's no pushover. She's going to make you work. So how hard does Ebony want to have to work right off the surgery?
That's the question.
Just something to think on. But I could see a fight between Ebony and Avril materializing. If not next, after next, or at some point down the line.
Because I reiterate, Avril Mathie is a solid and serviceable fighter, and Matchroom has a noticeable investment in the women's bantamweight and super bantamweight divisions.
Of quite a few ponies in those bantamweight and super bantamweight shows. They could use her.
So let's see if we don't end up getting this fight at some point later on this year.
Yeah, like Top Rank has ESPN, all right? Matchroom has the Zone, that's their network. Mayweather Promotions don't have Showtime. Al Heyman really has Showtime, so it's like...
Unbeaten up-and-comer Richardson Hitchens very recently talked to Ringside Views, detailing what led him to leave Mayweather Promotions for Matchroom.
And he talked about how things are structured over there at Showtime, that it's not actually Mayweather Promotions.
They're not the ones that have the deal, the content deal with Showtime. It's actually Al Heyman that has the content deal, and you might find that peculiar because Al Heyman himself is not a promoter, not by definition.
He's supposed to be a manager, he's supposed to be an advisor, but not a promoter, yet he acts a lot like a promoter would.
Yeah, like Top Rank has ESPN, all right? Matchroom has the Zone, that's their network. Mayweather Promotions don't have Showtime. Al Heyman really has Showtime, so it's like...
Why isn't it Samson Lukowicz that has the deal with Showtime? Why isn't it Tom Brown? Or, in this instance, Mayweather Promotions? Why is it that Al Heyman's the one with the content deal if he's not the promoter?
You know, it's Top Rank that has the deal with ESPN. It's Matchroom that has the deal with DAZN.
It's Frank Warren that has the deal with BT, and it's Ben Shalom that has the deal with Sky. The promoters have the deal with the network.
Mayweather Promotions ain't the ones with the Showtime deal. Neither is Samson Lukowicz or Tom Brown.
None of the promoters at the PBC, per se, are the ones with the content deal. It's Al.
He's got it.
You know what I'm saying? Like Mayweather can't make their own main events and be like, oh, okay, like, we're going to make Richardson this main event.
You want to pay attention to that it's not up to Mayweather Promotions because they're not the ones with the content deal. It's not up to them to decide what's going to be a main event and what isn't. It sounds a lot like it's Al Heyman who has the final say.
Because he's the one with the content deal, not them, and they fall in line with what he says.
They get their marching orders from Al, even though Al's not the promoter, but he's the one with the content deal.
Like, you know, Top Rank can make a guy 12-0, 13-0 the main event if they want. So that was kind of like, I think that was the deal breaker with that. And during the pandemic, it just slowed me down.
Why does the PBC have this nuanced structure to their inner workings? If Al Heyman isn't a promoter, why is he the one with the content deal?
It's a conglomerate of smaller promotional outfits, smaller than a Top Rank, smaller than a Matchroom, basically making up what the PBC is.
They get their marching orders from Al Heyman, even though Al Heyman isn't a promoter, yet he's the one with the content deal.
That's why they get their orders from him.
But why? Why specifically are their inner workings structured this way?
And then, things kind of took a turn, but I was just begging for activity, and I just didn't see it going that route, so I had to make the best move for me.
At least in theory, what this allows Al Heyman to do is to act as a promoter without being a promoter by name, being a promoter by title. Because if he were a promoter by name and by title, along with being a manager and an advisor, he would be in clear violation of the Muhammad Ali Act.
Which in so many words states that you can't be both a fighter's manager and his promoter. There's a conflict of interest there.
You can't look out for the best interests of both your fighter and your broadcast partner at the same time.
Reasoning is simple. Sometimes what's best for the fighter isn't what's best for the network. If there's more money on some other side of the street for the fighter, it behooves him to go get it.
Even if that's not in the best interests of the promoter and his broadcast partner. They want to keep all the content on their side of things.
And that's how it works.
Usually. Where Al Heyman's business practices and their nefarious nature comes into the light is that he is very much acting as both a manager, an advisor, and a promoter.
And that's not to the benefit of his fighters.
Having that much control over their autonomy, their ability.
He has the final say in their careers, even though he's not supposed to.
Kinda like how Stephen Fulton called up Luis de Cubas, who then called up Al Heyman, to get Al Heyman's blessing to essentially allow him to fight Naoya Inoue.
And by all accounts, he did allow Stephen Fulton to do it, but what you have to ask yourself is, what if he didn't allow it?
What if he didn't let him go through with it, but Stephen wanted to?
And then things kind of took a turn, but I was just begging for activity, and I just didn't see it going that route, so I had to make the best move for me.
Now, Richardson Hitchens, not having been a big part of the PBC's bottom line, not being one of their big sellers, their big draws, one of their more familiar fighters, they likely cut him loose because they could afford to, and they couldn't deliver what he wanted.
They hadn't yet turned him into a draw of any kind.
So when push came to shove, and they knew they couldn't deliver for him what he wanted, they cut him loose. They let him go. And now he stands to benefit from that. He stands to be a more active fighter for it because he's getting the dates at Matchroom that he wasn't getting from Mayweather Promotions, the PBC, or Al Heyman.
So again, is that one of the things that Matchroom is working on, just keeping you busy?
Yeah, in the contract, I think I'm promised 3 fights in 1 year.
It's more than he was getting at Mayweather Promotions at the PBC. The question then is, why is that? Why were they unable to deliver for Richardson Hitchens? He has the talent.
You see what he did to Bowser last weekend.
Young guy, unbeaten guy. What happened?
Al Heyman can't accommodate all those fighters over there. That's what happened.
That's what's going on. The Fox deal is rumored to be over. So he doesn't have that network money, that budget to do shows with anymore. They're relying on Showtime now.
There's a lot of fighters to accommodate. They can't accommodate them all. They're put in a position where they're either going to hold those fighters' careers hostage or trim the fat.
In the case of Richardson Hitchens, they elected to trim the fat.
He wasn't yet a big part of their bottom line, and they were unable to make the necessary investment in his career to keep him fighting, keep him busy, keep him active,
get him dates and turn him into a champion, groom him into one. They couldn't do that for him. Matchroom can.
You will notice that the PBC is outsourcing Tony Harrison. Tony's set to go to Australia to fight Tim Tszyu.
That's not going to be on Showtime or the PBC's dime. It's going to be on No Limit Promotions' dime. They're the ones paying for the show. They're helming promotion.
Not Al Heyman, not Showtime. I don't think Showtime's got it in the budget to keep all these guys busy.
The most they can do is procure the American rights to the show to air it here in America, but they're not the ones paying to do the show.
No way, the fucking show's in Australia. No Limit's paying for that.
They've outsourced unified super bantamweight champion Stephen Fulton to Japan to take on Naoya Inoue.
They can't match what he stands to make opposite the ring Naoya Inoue with any of their fighters. None of their fighters here in America are as big a draw here in America as he is in Japan. So they outsourced him.
The PBC's shrinking network budget, the budget they've got to work with in order to do shows and keep fighters busy.
They can't accommodate all these guys. That's likely why they were willing to cut Richardson Hitchens loose.
They just ain't got it in the budget to keep everybody busy. That's why so many of their fighters are sparsely active. That's likely why so many shows are ending up on pay-per-view.
In any event, that's what led Richardson Hitchens over to Matchroom.
And now that he's there, he's setting his sights on the big names at 140 pounds, Teofimo Lopez among them, saying he's dangerous and powerful, but I'm a different level skillfully. I think he's dangerous, explosive, and powerful, but I just feel like I'm on a different level skillfully, said Hitchins to BoxingScene.com. Following a boatload of success at 135 pounds, Lopez's unified reign was truncated at the hands of George Kambosos Jr. Since then, Lopez audaciously made the move 5 pounds north. The wins have continued to appear in the win column, but Lopez's performance have been up and down. In his most recent outing, the 25-year-old was pushed to the limit against fellow contender Sandor Martin of Spain. With a host of criticism being hurled in his direction, Hitchins refuses to pile on. Hitchins, a gracious sportsman.
He's not trashing Teofimo Lopez. He acknowledges that he's a good fighter, but he's a good fighter who he feels he can beat.
Things that are exposing him right now, I've been seeing it. I always felt like Teo is beatable.
Richardson has changed his decorum. He's with Matchroom now. He's going to be able to get the fight dates that he wasn't getting before, but is he going to be able to get the names?
Therein lies a dilemma that perhaps even Eddie Hearn may not be able to reconcile. He's not going to be able to get Teo to cross over to DAZN.
He's with Top Rank.
Moreover, news broke yesterday that he may be en route to a Tosh Jailer title fight in the very near future. And I reiterate, even if he wasn't,
He's with Top Rank.
even if he weren't en route to a Josh Taylor fight, the political boundary lines in the sport would prevent a Lopez versus Hitchins fight from taking place. So what can Eddie Hearn do about it?
When 2 of the 4 major titles are over there on PBC Island,
2 of them.
another one's over there at Top Rank.
What can Eddie Hearn do to accommodate his 140-pounders? Because it's not just Richardson Hitchens. There's also unbeaten Liam Botto of Australia to accommodate, as well as Dalton Smith, unbeaten up-and-comer Dalton Smith, who may not be en route to a title just yet, but at some point, he's going to want to fight for one. There ain't no titles at Matchroom.
What about Montana Love? What about Stevie Sparks, who beat Montana Love, gave him his first professional loss? Do they have options with him?
You've essentially got 3, maybe 4 140-pounders that you have to accommodate, but you ain't got no belt on your side of the street. So what are you going to do about it? I'll tell you what you do about it. You will go into business with Regis Prograis. You'd sooner be able to sign Regis Prograis to a multi-fight Matchroom deal than getting Bob to send Tio over, or any of the 140-pounders he's invested in. That's just not going to happen.
Not at this point, it isn't.
You know, where before, DAZN was able to throw a fuck ton of money at Jose Ramirez for a one-shot deal to come unified titles with Maurice Hooker, those days are over.
They're not going to overspend anymore.
You need a champion. You need a belt for these 140-pounders that you're invested in to fight for. And Regis Prograis, he's not doing a whole lot right now. He's not having any more luck with the top-ranked kids than you would.
If you tried to make fights with them.
The fight with Lopez ain't happening. The fight with Ramirez ain't happening. Not for Regis. He's not otherwise preoccupied with anything. He's supposed to be a pro-bellum fighter. But what does it really mean to be a pro-bellum fighter here in America? They ain't got no broadcast partner.
They ain't doing those shows out here.
Regis Prograis' last fight wasn't a pro-bellum show. It was a Marv Nation show over there on the West Coast. The fight with Jose Zepeda.
Regis is one of the most talented 140-pounders, one of the most talented champions in the division.
I'm sure he'd like for his fights to take place on a major platform. I'm sure that he'd like a regular schedule of activity, and I think that Matchroom is more capable of paying him the way he wants to get paid than, say, the PBC.
Certainly more than Pro Bellum. So bring him over.